Hi, everybody. It's Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, and this is another episode of the Pro and Con Show. And I'm your host, Michael James Ott, here in Hudson, Wisconsin. I got a small office here in my home. And if you want to know a little bit more about my background, interested in some of my thoughts I have or what I think in general, you can go to a website, ottin2020.org, and lots of information there. And I also have a YouTube channel where this will also be appearing. It's on Facebook Live right at the moment, but also similar videos will be appearing on YouTube on the channel that I have there. All right, so again, welcome. It's Thursday, and I just want to mention in yesterday's post, May 1st, it was our first post. And we talked about the importance of being fully informed. Okay, so I talk about the truth, the whole truth, right? And when I'm saying that, I'm saying we've got to embrace the truth, both pro and con, good and bad, for and against. And so, depending on where you're getting your information from, it can be biased. And there's been plenty of polls and surveys that people generally feel like the news on different organizations is biased, and it is. I mean, for sure it is. And so what I've done, just the importance of having the whole truth or being fully informed. The example I gave yesterday was buying a used car and understanding after talking to a mechanic or having a mechanic look at the car that the transmission is bad. So now you know that there's this problem with the transmission. Now you can make a fully informed decision. You can do the right thing going forward. And if you didn't have that information, then you're not fully informed and you're going to make the wrong decisions, right? So what I've done is I've selected 5 websites. So from left-leaning through kind of more centrist or generally mostly known for being non-biased, all the way to right-leaning conservative. So Huffington Post, CNN, NPR, National Public Radio, Fox News, and then the Breitbart News Network. And every night when I'm doing this, we're just going to go through their front pages and see how these different organizations are perceiving the world and thereby influencing or biasing how you perceive the world if you follow one of these websites. So the first one up here, let's hold that up. It's a Huffington Post. And Facebook, Facebook cleans house, bans extremists. And so in today's headlines, there's a significant number of people call them conservative, but they're definitely strongly aggressive websites. The most famous one is this InfoWars, this Alex Jones fellow who literally gets so emotional. He screams at the screen and he spits and spittles and all this other stuff. And but basically Facebook is saying that it's not going to tolerate, regardless of your views, whether you're leftist leaning or right leaning or religious, whatever, regardless of where your views are coming from, if they start promoting violence and anger and hatred toward other people, they're just going to stop you. And in this case, Alex Jones is one of the big people in this InfoWars, is being cut out. So Huffington Post, that was their primary thing. And now the CNN, they have this Trump's potential nominee. I don't think he was ever even nominated, but potential nominee for the Federal Reserve Board, this Mr. Moore, Stephen Moore, I believe. He is backing out. A bunch of stuff came to light on him. one of the main things is he has no background, no training in economics whatsoever, yet for whatever reason, Mr. Trump thinks he's a great economist. And then also there was a lot of discussion about how he perceives and treats women, and how inappropriate he's been doing that over decades, actually. So that's one of the things from that. And then we go to NPR, and NPR doesn't have any political information on the very beginning of their headlines. So they talk about, there's some technology things that they're talking about. So this is making a designer baby. So this idea of using genetics and genetic manipulation. And you go through their website, and down further, there's a story about Julian Assange vowing to fight extradition, and then in Latin America, Venezuela, this fight between Maduro, and let's see here, and then some stuff about having trouble with having children in college and how hard that can be. And then down toward the business, or down toward the bottom, it says Trump's saying that Stephen Moore is no longer being considered for the Fed post. So that's what NPR is talking about. Then we get to Fox News, and now I'll just change the page here. So they stuck an ad in there. Great. So Trump fights back, and let's see what he's saying here. So this just changed. It's different than what it was a few minutes ago. Trump tells Dems it's over. Forget about subpoenas. Trump slams a treasonous FBI. Trump releases video asserting Obama team is the one that dropped the ball on Russian interference. Senate Dems run into recruiting trouble. There's a couple of different Democratic locations for 2020, and they had candidates that they thought had real name recognition, and those candidates are refusing to run. So that's what that's about. And I think that's kind of it so far on this. I don't even see and then there's a bunch of opinion stuff. One of them interesting is, this is an opinion piece. So this title is from the opinion piece. So one of the things I want to say is, when you're talking about the truth, it's what, who, where, and when, right? And anytime you start talking about analysis or opinions or anything like that, well, I mean, that can be entertaining, and you might, be thinking about, but it's not news, right? It's not the truth. It's not factual stuff. It's opinion. Here's the title of an article under opinion. It's time to tackle our debt. Dems have been derelict. Well, okay. So I would agree. I mean, I would hope that most of you would agree that the national deficit has to be brought under control. And the main reason is that eventually people lose faith in the currency, and so you end up having a huge economic problem. It can be even as bad as the 2008 crisis, or even worse, where because suddenly everyone loses trust in the currency, and it becomes paper instead of money that can be used to transact business and stuff like that. And you've heard horror stories of the other countries where they go around with wheelbarrows full of money, and it takes a wheelbarrow of cash to buy a loaf of bread or something. It's crazy. And so one of the key things that the Fed has to do, but we have to do, all of us, all citizens, we have to work hard to make sure that our currency remains trustworthy. And having these large deficits, basically expanding the amount of debt that we have, can at some time throw a wrench into that trustworthiness, and we can suddenly have a huge economic issue. Now, whether or not the Dems are responsible, the Republicans, well, this thing with the deficits have been going on for decades now, and there's been Democrats and Republicans, both houses, not blah, 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 blah. I don't think it's either party, personally. I think it's all of us. We have to say, look, this is enough. We've got to really, regardless of who's in in those offices representing us, you must balance the budget. This is crazy. The economy is fairly good, and yet the deficits continue to go up. And then the rightmost thing is Breitbart. So I've got Breitbart here. And of course, they're talking about the war on censorship. And then it says, so remember I said earlier that Facebook was getting rid of some of these sites that were promoting hate and violence against other people. So the very beginning title here in the center of the Breitbart column says, Facebook goes to war, massively expands blacklist. Conservatives are called dangerous. And the ban expands to Instagram. So Breitbart, I think they feel like, or they position themselves anyway, as the true believers in free speech. And so one of the things that they basically say is, we can say anything we want because we have this right for free speech. And so a comment, and this is an opinion, okay, so separated from truth and opinion, but I think generally things that you're saying, unless you're truly trying to be whimsical or fictional, if you're truly making up a story, then you say, I made a movie, and it's a made-up story, okay? But if you're trying to represent the world, and you're trying to represent the world to someone else in a factual way, and you're presenting it as this is a reality here, this is not fiction, then, who, what, where, when, this has to be, the fundamentals of what you're saying. Who, what, where, when. You might get into why or how, but they can only be believed and they can only be trusted if they're very clearly known or observed. For example, there's a news program opens with a story that 6 people were killed in Alabama last night as a huge storm front went through with tornadoes and high winds and destroyed several homes. And, unfortunately killed these people, and several people are missing. Okay, who, what, where, when, and the why and how is, well, the storms and the tornadoes came through, right? So that's a pretty obvious cause for the who, what, why, and when. But other than that, if you're like, well, I think this, or we believe that these people did this, behind the scenes or whatever, you don't know. So who, what, where, and when. That is the news. That is the truth. Okay. So one of the things that, how much time we got? Just a minute or two. One of the things that is in here that is only appearing in Breitbart, at least in the front page, is there's a little bit of discussion about Joe Biden and some of the things that his oldest son, Hunter Biden, there's this undercurrent, kind of this thing, this news story bubbling, that Hunter Biden has been involved with some of these marginal business deals in the Ukraine and in China, and that his dad, Joe Biden, who was vice president during big portions of this, was somehow aiding and abetting either illegal activities or something that was marginally illegal or unethical. And so what I want to say about that is that Mr. Biden should do what all of us should do if something like this comes up. And that is, you sit down with the people that know about this, and in this case it's, maybe a reporter from Huffington Post, a reporter from Breitbart, a studio audience randomly selected from the area, and you sit there in front of them in a town hall and you take questions. And you say, okay, this is the issue. This is the thing that I'm potentially being accused of. And I want to get this over with. I want to get it behind me. So here's what we're going to do. You guys, for an hour, you're going to ask questions, and I'm not going to obfuscate or anything. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm not going to answer a question with a question. I'm going to answer your questions. This is what I think I know. This is what I think I knew it when. I do or do not remember. It's true. I mean, for example, this thing with Biden supposedly first surfaced maybe a little bit back during the Obama administration. I don't have any recollection of that whatsoever. So as years pass, you might not remember certain things. This is kind of normal for us humans. But in any case, you lay it out there. You say, here's the honest truth. Here's, I answer your questions. And now hate me or don't hate me, like me or don't like me. It is what it is. All right. And so if you think based on the answers that I've given you, there's some kind of criminal activity, then go for indicting or impeachment or whatever the thing is that you want to go for. I'm moving on. So this is a topic that is now in my rearview mirror, but it's important that they actually answer the questions. Okay, this thing where I'm going to answer with a question, or answer some other question, provide an answer for a different question. No, just answer the questions. Answer the questions. All right. Well, we're out of time for today. By the way, if you have comments, I mentioned this right here at the end. In future presentations, you have comments while I'm presenting, please don't hesitate to send a comment in. Love to know where people are watching. So if you're in Seattle or something, or wherever you are around the world, this thing could be anywhere. Send me a note and say, I watched this thing from Bangladesh, or wherever you might be. Well, I hope you enjoyed the topic, the discussion today, and I'll be here for 15 to 20 minutes every day for many weeks to come. We'll talk about the different issues, the different topics, and try to understand the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. And based on the amalgam of the truth, we'll be fully informed and we'll make much better decisions on the policy going forward. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.